This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good Tevach, everyone. Parshas Vayeira. It occurred to me over Shabbos during the Kriyas HaTorah, really, I think a very revolutionary and novel way to approach the storyline, the narrative of the Parsha, but I think it's also very obvious and simple as well. The Parsha opens up, the Malachim come to Avraham, and they say, Avraham, you're going to have a kid. You're going to have a baby, Sarah Ulasara Bain. Ka'es Chaya Ulasara Bain. And so we're waiting for Avraham to have the kid, which he does at the end of the Parsha. In the interim, the Torah tells us different stories, which we don't think necessarily they're connected with the Havtacha that Avraham will have a child, but look, it takes 9 months to have a child, so in the meantime, let's hear what happens. So Hashem tells Avraham, I'm going to destroy Sodom. Avraham davens, and ultimately Sodom is destroyed, Lot is saved, he lives with his daughters, and then Avraham goes to the land of Gerar, and Avimelech abducts Sarah, and Hashem punishes Avimelech, and Sarah is released, and then Hashem pakad Sarah. So all of this narrative with Sodom being destroyed, and Lot living with his daughters, and Avraham going to the land of Avimelech, and Sarah being abducted, we think it has nothing to do with Avraham having a child, but the Torah has to tell us something in the meantime. No. We have to try to explain this, that it's one narrative. There has to be a connection between these stories and the promise to Avraham that he'll have a child. Furthermore, we all know 3 Malachim came to Avraham. So the one that told Avraham he would have a child, Farshtetzach, we understand why he had to go to Avraham. The Malach that healed Avraham, yeah, we understand. But the Malach that destroyed Sodom, what's that angel doing? Going to Avraham's house. What he heard, Sarah makes a really good tongue, so he wanted to get a good meal. And what's he doing there? He has no business there. He should go straight to the city of Sodom. So it occurred to me, and I think this is a great matana. Avraham was promised he would have a child. When the Malach tells Avraham, you're going to have a child, what he's saying, okay, Avraham, you're going to have a child. Now watch how HaKadosh Baruch Hu pulls the strings to make this happen. So Hashem comes to Avraham, that I'm going to destroy Sodom. Avraham says, what does that have to do with me having a child? Just watch, Avraham. And Avraham is mispalel to save the tzaddikim, to save Lot, and ultimately Lot runs away, and he lives with his daughters. And the Gemara says, the Chazal say, Rashi brings it down, that the reason why Avraham went to live Be'eretz Gerar is because of the bad report that Lot lived with his daughters. It was embarrassing for Avraham, so he wanted to distance himself from Lot. So what did he do? He goes to live by Avimelech. Avimelech abducts Sarah, and Hashem punishes Avimelech that all of their orifices were sealed shut, and their nose, their ears, their eyes, and they couldn't go to the Beis HaKisei, and they couldn't have children. And when Sarah is released, Avraham is mispalel for Avimelech, from which Chazal learn out, Kol ha-mispalel be'ad chaveroi hu nenet tchila. Anyone who davens for their friend, he is answered first. So the reason why Avraham was zoicha to have a child is because he davened for Avimelech, to open up Avimelech's orifices, and therefore Hashem answered Avraham that Avraham was zoicha to have a child. So it comes out the entire sequence of narrative was all to bring about a child for Avraham Avinu. Namely, Hashem tells Avraham you're going to have a child. So Avraham says, okay, how's this going to happen? So Hashem says, watch, I'm going to destroy Sodom. And Avraham is mispalel. And because of that, Lot was rescued. So Lot is saved. Lot lives with his daughters. He lives with the daughters. Avraham's embarrassed. So Avraham has to go to Avimelech. Avimelech abducts Sarah. And Hashem punishes Avimelech. He closes his orifices. And Hashem davens for Avimelech. And there's chus of that tefillah. So Avraham has a child. So all of these sequence of events, all were Hashem bringing about the ingredients necessary so that Avraham Avinu could have a child. So it's not that these are random narratives that filling the gap in between Avraham's promise of having a child and him having a child. No, this is what it brought about, Avraham having a child. Lot was saved from Sodom. He lived with his daughters. Avraham had to move away from him. Sarah is taken. Avraham davens for Avimelech, and Avraham is blessed with a child. Now we understand why the angel who went to destroy the city of Sodom had to go to the house of Avraham with the Malach who promised Avraham the child. Because the angel who was to destroy Sodom part of the mission, the reason for that mission, the reason he had to destroy Sodom is partially to bring about the chain of events so that Avram should have a child. So since that was the objective of destroying Sodom, he's, so to speak, together partners in crime with the Malach who promised Abraham a child. I think this is really a revolutionary way to understand how the Rebbeinu Shalom is orchestrating events and pulling the strings. And it's also a revolutionary way to understand the storyline, the Chumash, how to read Chumash. These are not just random incidents, but each one follows the next and is a chain of events to bring about the promises of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shadavar Echad Midvarav Lo Achar Lo Yashav Reikam. Wishing everyone a gut Tavach, Gesund Tavach, a Mazel Tov.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.